So I'm continuing work on this design here. Last video went over these perennial beds and installed a bunch of shrubs and perennials from the 3D warehouse. To continue on, I'm going to get rid of everything that I don't need as my model is really starting to lag in these final stages of the design process. And today I'm working on installing trees, larger aspects, and for my last video I have gone ahead and made a little library here to pull from, all out of the 3D warehouse, and got a good selection. I've got my evergreens over here on the right, and then my deciduous trees over here on the left. And maybe just real quick, I'll go back into the 3D warehouse. A couple little notes I could show. So when the 3D warehouse comes up, it's kind of like Google, and what you enter will determine how specific your search is. So if I do something like pine tree, you can see what that brings up. And so right here it's under the products tab. If you move it into models, it gives you a broader scope or more selection. And then you've got, a handful of pine trees to choose through. And again, it's pretty hit and miss with which ones will jive with your model or not. So it takes a little bit of time to go through, but could do a search like pine tree or evergreen tree, see what that brings up. There'll be something different. It doesn't work that specific if you go like lodgepole pine. So there's one, so that's kind of helpful, but in general, I find that the broader searches yield better results. If I go aspen tree, see what that brings up, pretty good selection. Or otherwise, deciduous trees. So I've gone ahead and gone through and pulled out a pretty good selection of trees that will work well. They stand alone. And one thing that I did want to show on this is that as you're bringing these in, another thing to consider as well is to come up here into your Views tab and to turn on Shadows. And that will be kind of another tell to if the tree will work well in your model or not. And so a lot of these that are 2D Face Me just cast a giant rectangle. This one here, this deciduous tree, and this one as well. So I'm just going to get rid of those right off the bat. Because whereas for the final view that I'm going for here, I will incorporate the shadows, and that just will not work. So that eliminates a few right off the bat, and then maybe to go in further, show you on some of these models. So like on this one here, it comes with this lovely gentleman rocking sunglasses. And again, I don't know how to get rid of this. I don't know if you can or not. It's pretty built into the model. So I'm just going to nix that one as well. And then of my evergreen selection over here on the right side, there's probably a few I could do without. Like this one, the trunk doesn't really line up with the tree. See, it's left of center. Not the biggest deal, but only need 3 or 4 examples, so can do without that one. Okay, so I've got my little library going on here, and I'm going to start plugging these into the model. And again, to help on that, I will be pulling from my picture references. And so let me bring this over. So this is what the yard is currently looking like, what my landscaping is hoping to cure. And so I'm going to go in and plug in the existing trees that are already there. Um, these mature lodgepole pines that are here. So I'm going to put those in to help with the rendering. I'm going to select this guy, move tool, and then option to duplicate. Bring him in. So, and I'm going to work on installing these trees right here, little grove, kind of on the front right corner. I'll just duplicate this guy out a couple of times. And I'm going to come back into the view and take off those shadows because the shadows will slow down your model as you're actively working. More of a final aesthetic to tag on. Okay, so I got a little grove there. And then let me do this single guy that's hanging out in the middle, right about there. Cool, and then I have already added in these trees as well here on the right side. And so that's going to take care of the existing trees in the model. The existing trees that are already on site. And then, so I'm going to pull from this catalog again to incorporate the trees that I will be planting. And those are going to go in up here behind the building. They had to clear out a bunch of this material to make way for construction for the house. And so they removed a bunch of trees out from this area, and the homeowners wish to revegetate that. So let me come in and hide these trees. And then I will work on my new trees. And with pulling from this kind of catalog or library that I've got going of appropriate trees, just wanted to note that these are all region-specific trees. I've kind of got my lodgepole pine over here, fir, spruce, another kind of feathery pine, an aspen, and then with these two I was kind of going for a chokecherry, like a Canadian red chokecherry. And those are all either native or adapted to this climate. They grow well. And if ever you need a reference, pull up the plant hardiness map. It's USDA zones. In this map here, the color coordination can tell you which plants will do well in your region. And largely this is just associated with the region's low winter temperatures. So the area I'm working in is kind of northern US Rocky Mountains up in here. And a lot of it is going to be, a lot of where I work is high elevation, 6,000 feet plus. And it's going to be these purpley zones. So over here, that puts us into the zone 3 and zone 2, correlating with our low winter temperatures being about -30, -40 to the is the maximum or the extremes that we will see in the winter. So these models that are representing, lodgepole pine, Doug fir, subalpine spruce, quaking aspen, chokecherry, all extremely winter hardy. The selection up here is very limited, and so those that we do have to work with, they're kind of our tried and trues. They've been around for a while, and so just like with the perennials, I'm going to pull from my catalog here, and again it's move tool and then option on Mac to pull in. But I'll pull these in and just kind of start to work on this, revegetating this slope. And I'll spare you the tedious details of pulling over and duplicating one by one. I've gone ahead and done that already. Open up the tags into the trees. So we've got the existing trees that are already there, native trees, and then these new trees that I will be planting with this landscape install. Give those a second to pop up. So that's what it's going to look like. And it'll just kind of be a collaboration of trees that are all put back there, a nice variety. But I'll kind of have them staggered like so. And so that's going to do it for the trees. And now, as this model is extremely lagging, let's see if we can't bring in some of these other aspects. So we've got our walkway, our little ski chair, the retaining walls, perennial beds, bottom, perennial beds top, and our house, and then this boulder field. Okay, and now I'm sure that this model is going to lag to no end with all of this active and running until I can kind of go back through and clean it up and compress it a bit. But nonetheless, that's going to be throwing in trees to this model. Again, all from the 3D warehouse, selecting region-specific trees and adding them in one by one to give the effect that we are going for. And so anyhow, thanks for watching. I'm thinking about doing kind of a breakdown of this whole process. Two main parts, one being the 3D design part, and then the other being the landscape design. So they're two skill sets that I've been working on for a long time. My experience in the landscape design goes back further than the 3D design. So again, I really like SketchUp because it is user-friendly on this kind of intermediate level that I have in creating models that I can show to customers, people that want to do projects in their backyard, re-landscape an area, so on. But I'll definitely be continuing on with this same type of work, so if there is something specific you would like to see or better described in any of this process, the 3D design or the landscape design side of it, feel free to let me know. Open to suggestions, and thanks for tagging along. This design has been fun. It's going to be cool to install it this summer, and so stay tuned for the real life install.